The dual triangle has returned, and I've got 3 decks to show you. Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're taking a look at one deck from each of the different triangles, summoning mechanics, to show you. We're going to start off here with the Fusion one, because I know everyone cares the most about a Fusion deck that isn't branded or Lunalight that you can actually play, because nobody actually wants to play against those decks. And the deck that I have chosen is Dragonmaid. Dragonmaid is just a fun, cool, interesting deck. Now, there's a myriad of other decks that you could choose from as well, but Dragonmaid is the one that I want to showcase because it did receive some new support recently, and in the form of Lady. That's pretty much it. It did also receive the new Chamber level 9, which is a nice addition to the deck, but mostly it is Lady. Lady is a crazy card. It just requires 2 Dragonmaids with the same attribute but different levels, and you can summon it by banishing the above materials, 1 from grave and 1 from field, which is pretty solid. It means that if you ever see one of the big Dragonmaids alongside its counterpart, either in field and or grave, or more specifically, 1 in field, 1 in grave, you have the ability to make this card. On summon, on special summon specifically, you also get to special summon a level 4 from deck, which is pretty nice. And then on top of that, during the standby phase, you can fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling its materials from your field and or banishment into the deck, meaning that you can, during the standby phase, make Shio, which then also will trigger Shio, also during the standby phase, to special summon a level 9 or lower Dragonmaid monster from hand or grave, which is another very solid addition. On top of that, you can make things like Philia Regis, you can make things like Chaos, you can make things like a Borreload Furious. Dragoon is here because he's funny. And that's pretty much it for that card in particular, and it's one of the reasons that this deck actually functions now, because now you actually can use a lot of these cards that you previously couldn't. Kitchen is now a 1-card starter. Parlor is a 1-card starter. Chamber is a 1-card starter. All of these are now way easier to actually access and properly use, which is very nice. Actually, to be fair, Chamber is technically still not a 1-card combo, because you still have to see something else. Actually, no, it is. Yeah, it is because of the Link monster. It's just not in this event, right? So there's that. In this event, Chamber's a little it's technically weaker. It's technically still fantastic. So that's pretty much it. That being said, we're also playing Dark End Evaporation Dragon because it is a level 8 or higher Dark Dragon monster, which happens to be very useful for a bunch of different effects, most notably things like Lady Dragonmaid, as well as just being used for things like Shio or for House Dragonmaid, or whatever else you may use it for when it comes to the fusion summons. So this guy's pretty good. He just basically special summons himself. He also fusion summons. Very solid card. And that's pretty much it in terms of what this deck is aimed to do. So let me show you the replay and show you how this deck performs. Alrighty, so here we are going first, and this is a pretty solid hand. It's not exceptional, but at the very least, we do have the 1-card starter in Kitchen. So we're going to activate the Kitchen, which will probably be Ash, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. We still have Evaporation Dragon. We're going to banish a Chaos from our extra deck, and to get met by Imperm. So we're just going to set 2 and pass, and, you know, hope and pray. And it's fine, because my opponent is on Tistina. Why do I not Ash this? Great question. Anyway, my opponent's going to do a whole bunch of things, and it's actually going to bite me in the butt, because if I don't top deck really well here, this Varujus is going to eat me alive. They're going to pop one of my my Imperms, which kind of sucks. Not great. However, it's fine, because we do top deck pretty well, specifically in the Chamber Dragonmaid department. I'm going to Imperm here, obviously, as they attempt to negate. And they're going to also activate this, which is funny, because it doesn't do anything. Anyway, beside the point, I do grab Hospitality here, and then I go, wait a second, I can't actually use that. Oops. And also, for some reason, I was like, oh, I can just go Lady here, because this is a Dark Dragon monster with a different level. That's not how Lady works. So I do have to go combat and just walk into the Varujus, but it's fine, because now we can go for the Hospitality here, which, by the way, this still is what I would do, even if I couldn't necessarily do the other play, because it still allows us to go into the Lady and basically get everything that we need for the rest of the plays. So we can actually summon the Parlor here off of Lady, which then gives us access to Changeover. We can bounce the Chamber to our hand for the Changeover, and we can activate the Changeover in order to fusion summon into the Shio, and then we have Shio as well. And because of the way that Shio works, we can actually bring back the Lady, because it was technically properly summoned. This does count as properly summoning the card by using its alternate summoning mechanic, because you're technically not only allowed to summon it off of the like a fusion summon. So, in fact, actually, it does say you're supposed to special summon it from your extra deck by banishing the above materials. So, there's that. Anyway, just like normally with fusion monsters, you can't actually. For example, if House goes to the graveyard off of the Shio effect because it wasn't properly summoned, you can't bring it back. But in this case, we could. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Out comes the House Dragonmaid. My opponent's going to do a whole bunch of things with the Barudras, and they actually pop the House here, which is just the incorrect choice. So there's that. Because, yeah. Oh, also, because this card was special summoned, we do go to special summon the Chamber, and then Chamber grabs us the Hospitality. And then we can go for the Chaos, shuffling back our monsters from the Banish Zone. I don't know why I don't put back the Tinkak. I should have. But then I just pop the monster here. Because I know they have that one monster in hand that modulates its level, so I don't want them to have a monster on the field. So there's that. Also, what I should have done is put back the Chamber from the field, put back Chamber and the other Dark Dragon from Banish in order to go into Chaos, and then pop the field spell as well. Oops, I didn't exactly play this very well, but this does show you the grind game of the way that Dragonmaid works. I gotta make another Chaos here, so out comes Chaos number 2, and we gotta pop another card. I'm gonna pop that, they're gonna summon out another guy, and I'm like, that's a-okay. All I have to do is not destroy this, which we do have ways of circumventing. We're going to use our big Chamber in order to special summon back the Parlor. Parlor sends the Tidying, and then we're going to normal summon the Chamber in order to grab up the Tidying. From this position, I go for the Hospitality to bring back the Chamber and to dump another Chamber. I'm just calling the big one Chamber, sorry. And then we can fusion summon into the Shio. From this position, we're just going to walk into the set card, and then just kind of like pass the turn. We get a set, an additional card here, and then just pass. Yeah. Here we can go for the Shio to bring back the Chamber, and then we can also go for the Lady to go for the Philia, and we're off to the races. My opponent in main phase is going to immediately activate the effect of the Tistina, Crystal God, which I'm actually going to negate and banish, so that it doesn't get destroyed, it gets banished instead, but we still negate the effect that would have booked everything. Anyway, out comes House, which gets Lightning Stormed, which is funny, and they're just going to pass the turn, and at this point the game is pretty much over. So we're going to summon out the Chamber, and Chamber is going to grab up the last Hospitality and then be bounced promptly back to hand. So from this position we draw Nibiru, which is cute, but not that big of a deal. We're actually going to go into the Shio here in order to activate its effect in order to bring back a Chamber. It's just there for kicks and giggles, I guess. But out comes the Parlor, and my opponent sees the writing on the wall and just concedes there. Basically, I was just trying to set up lethal from there. So, good game. Alright, and the XZ deck that I have for you is Generaider. Yeah, Generaider is a very solid deck in this event as well, due to the fact that you just use XZs. Like, that's the whole gimmick of this deck, is using a whole bunch of XZs. And your board is very powerful. Like, it is deceptively powerful. If you're able to make Leviathan and add a horror to it, it is very difficult for a lot of decks to beat. Now, there is a chance that you brick. That's not too surprising, right? There's a whole bunch of dead cards in here. Pretty much from here to here, if you draw, it's just like a dead card. Okay. This one can kind of get you out of a situation if drawn in tandem with Monstrosity, but other than that, pretty much all of these cards are just dead cards. And these can also be dead cards. So, there's that. That being said, overall, I do think that this deck is still pretty fun to play, and it does a lot of silly things. Now, you could also play Pot of Extrav in this. I decided not to. One, because I didn't want to craft the extra cards, the extra URs to play this. So, that's why. But the second reason is because if you do end up banishing Leviathan and Jormungandr, just in any number, it just ends up being really bad. Because your whole deck is centered around summoning these two dinguses, right? This guy just yoinks up the entire field by summoning this guy, so you do kind of need both of those. So that's the general idea. And then, of course, it's just like all of the standard Generaider stuff, right? We have Lopter in order to search out, to special summon, specifically Mardell searching out a Generaider card. We also have Vala to discard a Generaider in order to special summon itself. And then, of course, we have Double Har, because it's just the best one to actually have on the field. And then, of course, our Utgard, our Hela, and our Nidhogg as additional points of interaction. And then we're also playing this newer card with QQ Eneagion, Eneagon, I don't know how to say this, but I just call him QQ. And, oh, by the way, the reason it's called QQ is apparently a reference to Warcraft 3, where if you would surrender it in, like, Korea, people would be like, you know, to basically tell you to quit, they'd go QQ, which is apparently the shortcut to quit the game. So, I could be wrong about that being the reason this is called QQ, but that is one of the things that QQ specifically means. And just tidbit of information that I found interesting. Anyway, back to this. Yeah, this card is kind of crazy. You just reveal another level 9 and then special summon both of them onto the field. Now, that does lock you from the extra deck. You can only summon rank 9s. However, that doesn't matter. So, yeah. Sorry, rank 9 or higher, you can still summon Zeus. But, yeah, just being able to summon another Generaider is fantastic. So, of course, we're going to be able to do that. And, of course, we're going to do that. Being able to make Leviathan is very solid. So, that's pretty much it in terms of the deck. It's just a bunch of Generaiders and grab and boss stage. And that's pretty much it. Let's hop into the replay and show you how this deck performs. Alright, and here we are going second, which kind of sucks, but our hand is playable at the very least. Let's see what my opponent is on. We did draw Ash, and they are playing 60 cards, so almost assuredly this is branded. And yeah, of course it's branded. We all knew it was branded, right? Like 90% of the decks that you play against are branded. It's very silly. So my opponent's going to do some things. I'm like, for sure. Out comes the Magnemite. Magnemite effect is going to activate. They're going to then tribute off, and they're going to this guy. They're going to grab the Lost, and I'm like, okay, sure. I noticed that they don't actually have, they didn't go branded fusion, so I was like, okay, cool, great. The Titanic Glide is just going to be negated by the Ash here, so there you go. Now, granted, they do have the Granganol, which means that they do still have the ability to summon it during our turn, because immediately our first action has to be Vala. It's like the only thing that we can do. I guess technically speaking, we could like go Monstrosity, summon the Mardell from our hand, and then search, but that's like terrible. So we're instead just not going to do that. We draw a boss fight, which is kind of funny, but alas. We're going to go for the Vala here. They are going to go for the Quem, and I'm going to bring back the Mardell. They are going to then send the Albaz. I'm like, yeah, I don't want that, but that's fine. We're first going to go for the Horror here, and now we get to go combat, just walk up to the guy. I really don't want them to be able to fusion summon here, so I'm just like, okay, we'll just eat that guy. I don't think they have a Bestial in hand, because they search Albaz during the end phase, but that's fine. We do get to go Monstrosity here, targeting the Vala, so that we can summon 2 of our guys from deck, and we summon the Hela and the Nidhogg, and then we can go for the Leviathan and just the field. Yummy, yummy. And now we can go for the Jormungandr and attach additional material, and then we can also force them to pitch a card with Horror. We're also going to go into Hyperiton. This card is kind of crazy. It's basically just a negate. However, it is a negate for the cards that are attached to it. So, for example, if your opponent activates a spell, you can detach a spell to negate that spell. Make sense? Makes sense. However, on top of that, it can attach one of your own cards in grave that is the same type as the card you activate. So, for example, if I activate Boss Fight, if I had another trap in grave, it would be able to chain to attach that trap to the grave, or to the to it, right? So that's one of the ways that it can basically get that additional negate. But we are going to go Boss Fight here, which grabs us the boss stage, which is great. It does draw them an additional card, but it allows us to go for the Vala from deck here, and we have to chain this specifically so that boss stage is chain link 1 and Vala is chain link 2. My opponent decides to go for the Saronir, and I'm like, sure, I don't care about you banishing Hela. That's not what I was even going to summon anyway. I was going to summon out the Lopter. The reason for the Lopter here is so that we can actually summon the Utgard from deck. So there's that. Anyway, still during standby phase, or during standby phase, we're actually going to activate the effect of our Jormungandr in order to draw a card and discard a card, and this allows us to activate Horror. Horror says, once per turn, if your opponent adds a card from deck to their hand, except during the draw phase, you can make them send a monster from their hand or field to the grave. So, we just force them to basically remove another thing. That's basically what we're doing there. We're also doing it in standby kind of to play around triple attack, so there's that. They're going to add back the Lost here. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not too concerned about Lost here, again, because of Lopter. So we're just going to, during the main phase, go for the Lopter effect here and grab up our Utgard, which has the ability to tribute 2 Generaiders in order to banish a monster, which is pretty solid. My opponent's going to go for the Ecclesia. I'm going to negate with the Hyperiton. You might be wondering, why are we negating with the Hyperiton the Ecclesia? I don't want them to be able to get Albaz here, because Branded Lost would prevent me from negating it, so that's basically it. They go for the Mercurier here off of their Allure of Darkness, because of course. And out comes the Albion. They're going to activate the effect. They're going to send the red to the graveyard, which is a choice. They're going to go for another Allure, banishing another Mercurier. And then out comes Shirin, which hits nothing. Nothing of note, I should say. But they do actually pitch the Albaz that they had in hand, so I'm like, oh, okay. And then out comes Aluber. I'm like, cool. They grab the Brand Infusion, and immediately I go, stop right there. I'm going to banish this Lost. I don't want to have to deal with it. So we banish the Lost here, and then I go for the Har, and I keep Har on field. This is just a mistake. I shouldn't keep Har on field. I should keep the Jormungandr there. The reason I was doing this was so that they didn't have all of these cards that I had tucked underneath it. So that's a bit of a goof on my part. I gave them back the Lubellion, which is just tragic. But alas, we negate the that one, and then they go card destruction. I don't even have a card in hand, by the way. Because if I did, I would be able to use Boss Room. This is a crazy card. But it's fine, we draw for turn, and at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm just going to go combat here, and we're going to walk over the field, and then I actually just, in combat, activate the boss stage, or the boss room, so that I can attach the trap card that is in my grave, and I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. I should have done that first. But I was like, oh yeah, I could do that. That's pretty cool. So now if this is a trap, we have a negate for it, and we just pass back to them. They're on basically nothing here, and we're going to activate the boss stage here in order to special a guy from deck. They go Light of the Branded, which is a card I have never seen before. However, it doesn't matter because I'm going to force them to actually just make us both draw a card. Instead. So I just say no, and then out comes the Vala. Vala effect is going to activate. We're going to bring back the Utgard, and we're going to grab another token. And at that point, my opponent can see is seeing the writing on the wall. We have a Trap negate, we have a Monster negate, we have an Omni negate. I'm pretty good there. We also have the Banish as well, and they don't really have anything. So there you go. We beat Branded. Hell yeah. Alright, then the last deck I got for you is not really a Link deck so much as it is a deck that makes Link a Link monster. It's Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul is not necessarily the Link deck that you would think of, but it's also just one of the greatest decks of all time, and it's so fun to play. Oh, baby. I love this deck. If you don't know, Vanquish Soul relies on revealing attributed monsters of Fire, Dark, and Earth in order to trigger additional effects, and just is basically like playing a fighting game. It's very, very cool. So, if you don't know, basically the main mechanics are that they go into the Rock the Vanquisher in order to add back those attributes from the grave, and also special summon them during the opponent's turn, which is very nice. Raisin is just a standard search for monsters. Mad Love searches spell traps. Xiaolong can reveal 2 fires specifically to search out any card in the deck, which is very nice. And then we also have the Heavy Borger as well as Caesar Valius, which bounce the monster. They can target a monster during the main phase at quick effect speed in order to bounce it, and then special summon themselves in their stead. And Caesar Valius has the ability to pop by revealing one of each attribute, just non-target pop a card, and Heavy Borger can draw a card by revealing a dark, or burn by revealing a fire and an earth. So, all in all, pretty solid deck, but it's basically just like generating a whole bunch of smaller advantages in order to, by like revealing a whole bunch of things, in order to kind of slow down the opponent. And yeah, it's a lot of stuff like that. Their big payoff is Snow Devil. Snow Devil, by revealing all 3, allows you to inflict, I believe, a total of 1,800 damage, which is a fair amount, and then also nuke the field, which is pretty good. It also has the ability to special summon a Vanquish Soul monster from hand on it, just revealing 1, which is also not bad. And it also gives you it gives you destruction protection on your Vanquish Souls, which is also very solid. That's pretty much the idea of the deck. So we're also playing a whole bunch of the specific attributed typed hand traps. So things like Impulse along with Fire Attacker. We're playing things like Deity Crow and Bestials. We're also playing Radiant as a Kaiju just to deal with, Luna Light, basically. And then we're also playing things like Asha and Ghost Bell. As for the extra deck, I'm just playing Pot of Extra, so I happen to have 3 SP, so we're playing that. But it's basically just Rock the Vanquisher. That's the only one that really matters. And yeah, let's just hop into the replay and show you how this deck performs. Alrighty, so here we are going second, and our hand isn't particularly good. In fact, it's actually... Well, okay, it's actually really good for going first, and it's terrible going second. That being said, my opponent is on... Oh, it's on Kashtira. Okay, well, you know, it could be better. It could also be worse. Out comes Unicorn. Unicorn is going to grab a Breath, sure. They're going to activate the effect of the Theosis that they already had to grab up the Fenris, activate the Fenris, grab up the Rise Heart, and I'm like, sure. Activate the Rise Heart, special summon itself out. How comes Breath? How comes the Generaider? Yeah. We all know what Kashtira does. They didn't banish anything too important, so I'm like, okay, it's fine. We're good. However, this X-Trap now becomes significantly worse. They're going to lock up a few of our zones, activate, or go into the Rise Heart, and pass the turn. That is a pretty good draw, because now we have all three attributes already in hand. Let's see what we can accomplish with this. So, first and foremost, my opponent is going to special summon it from the deck. They're also going to go for the preparations immediately. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, out comes the Scare Cash. And I'm like, that's fine. We're going to go Pot of Extra here. We're going to banish 6 cards. And we did end up banishing 2 of our Rock the Vanquishers, which kind of sucks. And we're going to draw 2. Hey, those are 2 pretty good draws. I'm going to activate the Impulse here. We're just going to banish it in order to grab up a guy. They're also going to elect to special summon a Kashtira that is banished or in their hand. And, well, they don't have one that's banished. So out comes the Ogre from their hand. We're going to go summon out our Fire Attacker. This is basically just to see if they are going to use an interaction on this, and they do. They go for the Wraith Soak here because they did activate the effect of their Generaider, so I'm going to pop the Impulse. I'm like, that's fine. I didn't need it. It wasn't necessary in hand. They're also going to yoink it, which is kind of funny. Not that big of a deal. We're going to go for Rhoda here in order to grab up the Raisin, and now we're off to the races. Sorry, my opponent has to do things first. Out comes Raisin. We're going to activate the effect. They are going to attempt to banish, which is a choice from my opponent. But that's fine, because we are going to bounce with the Heavy Burger. Burger is going to bounce the Raisin, and now we get to summon it. And at Point of Resolution, we get to add up the Caesar Valius. So while they do have the ability to use the Fenris on a new chain, we also now have the Caesar Valius, which can target the guy that we just summoned, bounce it back to the hand, now they don't get to banish it. Which is also very good, because Caesar Valius also has the effect now where we can reveal a bunch of guys and pop a card. Again, non-targeted. Pretty solid. So out comes this, and then out comes their Unicorn because they detach the Big Bang. Hooray. They're going to reveal a whole bunch of things from the Ogre here, and I'm like, oh, please don't take the Continue. They decided to take Stake Your Soul. I don't really understand the reasoning behind that, but sure, whatever. They're going to keep attaching here, and like, there's nothing I can do about that. Generaider does trigger here as well, but that's not really that big of a deal, because I have a plan for this. I'm just going to chain here. It doesn't really matter when I chain this, but we're going to chain here the Caesar Valius, and we're just going to reveal everything and pop the set card, which happened to be Macrocosmos, so pretty glad I popped that one. If you're wondering why I'm popping that, I hard drew Snow Devil, which is very good here. If I don't hard draw the Snow Devil, this is like way worse. But I did, which is important, because, as I previously mentioned, it is basically Raigeki. So, with the 3 attributes in hand, we do have the ability to just wipe the opponent's field, which is pretty solid, while also getting our own advantage. Pretty solid. We also have the Ghost Spell, which eats the Birth as well, so there's a lot of things that we can do there. They're going to go for the Unicorn, and I'm like, that's fine. This was also a way for me to get Xiaolong onto the field. Xiaolong effect allows you to special summon it if a monster was revealed, or if a Vanquish Soul activates an effect to reveal a card. So it special summons itself, and they're going to take our last rock, so... Well, I guess we're not Link summoning. Anyway, they're also going to lock another one of our zones, which is spooky scary. But that's fine, because guess what? Xiaolong has a second effect, which I didn't mention previously, where it changes a battle position of a monster on the field. That's right, I'm going to put this Generaider into attack position so that I can punch it in the face. Yeah, now I get my zones back. Hooray! Which do kind of matter, but there you go. So we're going to walk into that, and, yeah, the Scareclaw. Here's the thing. The Scareclaw, at this point, doesn't matter, because we're just going to walk into the field and negate our own monsters, because, you know, we don't really need to have them. Also, for some reason, they keep stealing from me. I don't know why, but, they keep stealing my monsters. Anyway, they also immediately decided to go for preparation in draw phase to bring back the Fenris, which I'm like, I don't know why we're doing this. This seems really stupid. But alas, okay, sure. They also elect to go for the Rise Heart in draw phase. I'm like, what are we doing? Anyway, here's Snow Devil. So we're going to reveal 1, 2, and 3, and that's 3 different attributes, which means we get Special Summon, Protection from Destruction, and we get to nuke their field. And they have no protection, so away goes everything. It's all gone, and they take 18. They do banish my Snow Devil face down, which kind of sucks. But I'm just going to grab the Mad Love here. The reason for the Mad Love here is so that we can Heavy Border bounce, and then still have a Dark in hand to draw a card. My opponent is going to go for the Birth here, and since they've already used the effect of Preparation, realistically, there's no other reason to do anything except for pop that card, so I'm just going to pop it. If they happen to have, like, Ogre or something like that, it's not really going to matter. At that point, we basically win the game off of just sheer advantage, right? Just the Caesar Valius itself is going to cause too many issues for them. So, good game. Alright, and that's pretty much it for this episode. This is normally not one of my favorite events, right? I think the just gimmick of summoning mechanic locks is not really all that interesting. So I'm not that big of a fan of this event in particular. That being said, I am always a fan of being able to play some of these more unpopular, less played, less meta decks. Being able to play things like Generaider and Vanquish Soul and Dragonmaid and all of these other decks is pretty fun. So I haven't necessarily not enjoyed this event. I just wish that there were more events that were more interesting, right? Like Theme Chronicle or like the NR events and stuff like that. I understand why they're not necessarily, but I don't know, give us time travel events. I don't know why we don't have those as full events and they're instead dual trials. It seems very silly, but alright, whatever. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy it. If you did, I like it very much. So appreciate it. And remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.